Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's movie is 1944's The Monster Maker, directed by Sam Newfield. In 1920, Maurice Renard published Les Mains d'Orlac, a novel about a pianist whose hands are destroyed in a train wreck and has them replaced by the hands of a recently guillotined murderer. Orlac, the pianist, begins to believe his new hands are causing him to change into Mr. Hyde, and he and his wife attempt to find a solution to his dilemma. In 1924, director Robert Veen adapted the book into a movie called The Hands of Orlac, starring Conrad Veidt. In 1935, director Carl Freund adapted the story into a film called Mad Love with Peter Lorre as Dr. Gogol and Colin Clive as Orlac. Something this version added was the doctor's obsessive love of Orlac's wife, Yvonne, an actress in a Grand Guignol-type theater troupe. He proposes to her, unaware of her marriage to Orlac, and is heartbroken to learn this. He buys a wax figure of her to keep in his home. When Orlac's hands are smashed in a train accident, Gogol agrees to transplant the new hands onto Orlac's wrists and chooses a condemned murderer, a vaudeville knife thrower, as the donor. One thing leads to another and the weirdness blooms. Tonight's movie is a variation on The Hands of Orlac, or should I say on Mad Love. There have been a lot of variations on that theme in movies and on TV. A brilliant but insane doctor falls in love with a married woman, finds a way to worm his way into her life, usually by saving her husband's life, and the story goes on to its conclusion. In The Monster Maker, Igor Markov, a mad doctor, takes the mad love path with a bit of a twist. He falls in love with the daughter of a concert pianist and starts what would today be considered stalking her. It seems that she's the mirror image of his late wife, who developed acromegaly, a disease that causes the enlarging of the bones in the hands, feet, and face, and committed suicide. The doctor has a not bad-looking female assistant, Maxine, who is, of course, in love with him. She tells him this, and he blows her off, saying that she means nothing to him, and he'd just as soon feed her to his pet gorilla, who has taken an intense dislike to her. He's still working on a cure when he spies Patricia, the daughter, in the next box in one of her father's concerts. When Anthony Lawrence, the girl's father, confronts the doctor in his office, the doctor takes it badly. He knocks Anthony out and injects him with a serum that causes acromegaly, then sends him home after he wakes up, reminding the pianist that if he reports the attack, it would be his word against the doctor's, but he promises to lay off pursuing his daughter. Over the course of the next few days, Anthony's behavior begins to change. He becomes restless and overstimulated, soon finding he can't play the piano anymore. This disease hits him hard and fast, turning him into a misshapen monster. When Maxine finds out what Markov did, she threatens to go to the police, and Markov, who apparently has the ability to hypnotize people, talks her into going to bed. When she does, he lets his pet gorilla loose, and it heads straight up to Maxine's bedroom. Now, there's something here I want to address. Why in the name of God does Markov have a gorilla in a cage in his lab? He never uses it for experiments. It's just there to lunge at Maxine whenever she strays close enough to his cage for it to reach her. Even as a kid, I never found gorillas to be all that scary. Well, King Kong, sure, but he was huge. This is just a run-of-the-mill guy in a gorilla suit, and after he attacks Maxine, you never see him again. It seems to me that the Poverty Row Studios just stuck a gorilla in movies as kind of like a go-to monster. The guys who specialized in playing gorillas, like Charlie Gamora, Ray Crash Corrigan, and George Barrows, created and owned their own gorilla costumes and made a pretty good buck playing apes in the various movies and shorts. They never got credit, but they didn't care. They were in it for the art. Just for the sake of completeness, Ray Corrigan plays the gorilla in this movie. Now, there's something else I feel like I should address, although it has nothing at all to do with the movie. Well, it does, tangentially, but this is more of a personal problem. Although you can't tell by my intros, I'm a very compassionate person. Too compassionate at times. I can usually find some way to sympathize with the bad guys in movies, unless, of course, they're like horrendously bad and they have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. I do this in life as well. There are some former friends of mine who have divorced me from their lives, and that's okay. Maybe I said something I shouldn't have. Maybe they feel some imagined slight. Maybe they just feel that having friends is some kind of weakness. I don't see them anymore, and my life is probably better for it. But I still feel some compassion for them. Feel that perhaps they don't realize they're missing one of the greatest joys in life. Having people you can count as friends and depend on for support or just companionship. People that make your life worth living. People that make you laugh, and while you're laughing, you look at them and say, thank God. And just thank God they're part of your life. My friends have enriched my life, and more than once reminded me that it's worth living. The downside of being compassionate to the degree that I am is that you find it hard not to forgive people who have wronged you. There's one in particular I will never forgive, but otherwise I'm too easygoing. That applies to movies as well. In the case of Mad Love, even though Peter Lorre's character is insane and his unrequited love for Orlak's wife pushes him over the edge, I still feel sorry for him. I shouldn't, but I do. I know what unrequited love feels like. Not to that degree, obviously, but I'm familiar with it, so I feel for his character. Not in this movie, though. The character of Markov is so selfish, so cold, and such a jerk that I felt nothing but excitement at his impending undoing. J. Carroll Naish is excellent in the role, and it's not a role that many actors today would want to play. It has plenty of meat on the bone, but there's no redeeming moment for him. He's unlikable from beginning to end, and that's what makes the performance great. He doesn't care whether or not the audience empathizes with his character. He's a one mind, one goal, and he will do anything he has to do, no matter how low, in order to achieve it. I don't like the character, but I love the performance. On to the bios. J. Carroll Naish was born Joseph Patrick Carroll Naish on January 21st, 1896 in New York, New York. He appeared in 222 movies over the course of his long career, rarely, if ever, playing an Irishman, which is odd since he was 100% Irish. He had the ability to convincingly play just about any ethnic role and was twice nominated for Best Supporting Actor Oscars. His first film role was an uncredited bit in 1922's What Price Glory, and soon moved on to bigger and better roles, often playing a mad doctor or a gangster. He played Russians, Italians, Germans, Frenchmen, Indians, Hispanics, American Indians, you name it, he played it. He was referred to in Hollywood as a one-man United Nations. His last film was, 1971's Dracula vs. Frankenstein. Awful, awful movie. He acted on radio and TV and pretty much worked until the day he died from emphysema on January 24th, 1973 in La Jolla, California. Tala Burrell was born Natalie Birel on September 10, 1907 in Bucharest, Romania. Nicknamed Taluja, her mother was a baroness of Polish descent and her father was a German businessman. She studied in private schools in Berlin and made a couple of brief film appearances in 1926 and 1927 before moving to the stage and filling in roles originally played by Marlene Dietrich. Because of her cold beauty, she was pegged as a Garbo clone, playing in various crime pictures and women in prison type films. But during World War II, she played courageous anti-Nazi roles in films such as 1943's China and 1944's Until We Meet Again. After the war, she returned to Germany and lived with her mother in Munich, where she was appointed field entertainment supervisor by the Special Service Headquarters of the U.S. Army and was tasked with producing theatrical productions for the troops stationed in Germany, France, and Austria. She retired in 1957 and died of cancer on February 17, 1958 in Landstuhl ID Falls, Rhineland-Palatinate, Germany. The Monster Maker isn't a bad movie. It isn't a great one either, but it's entertaining, and at 63 minutes it doesn't try your patience. So right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy The Monster Maker right here on Cleveland Classic Cinema. Stick around after the movie for a few